that Marilyn would look at that Paramount water tower. Her brief stay at Holly Grove was a respite for young Norma Jeane from an otherwise turbulent childhood.
Norma Jeane was born in Los Angeles on June 1st, 1926. Norma Jeane's mother, Gladys Baker, was an unstable woman. Interestingly enough, she did have a job and she made good money, but unfortunately, Norma Jeane's mother wasn't able to take care of her with the day-to-day goings-on that are required to raise a young child. And so Norma Jeane was given to Gladys's best friend at the time, Aunt Grace.
How old was she when she came here?
She was 9 years old, and she had been living with Grace McKee. But Grace McKee had just got married, so Grace McKee brought her here to live. And she was sobbing as they dropped her off, and she said, "I'm not an orphan. I have a mother. I don't belong in an orphanage." And she was desperate not to come here.
What was her impression and feelings about the time she spent here?
I think she really found this a safe haven because it was a wonderfully nurturing place. I think she really enjoyed the other children. She was like the big sister to so many of them, and I think it really brought out another side to her. She was very shy, and she would play the piano. She would play the piano to kind of entertain the children and calm them down.
Really? I didn't know she could play the piano.
I've never heard anybody else discuss it, but people that knew her then as a child.
What was a typical day like for her here?
Well, they actually tried to make it like a typical day in a family, you know, breakfast together, then going off to school, and chores to do, and they had pets, and they all had to take care, you know, they really did try to make it as normal as possible. But also, this was the countryside, because the orphanage was originally downtown, and it was started in 1880. They moved out here to give them fresh country air, if you can believe it.
Right.
So, and it was just fields everywhere.
Did Grace ever come visit her?
Oh, yes. She would come and visit her, and she'd take her out to the movies and take her out to the beauty parlor. So she liked that. And then Grace McKee came and got her again.
But Grace then took her to Grace's aunt, Aunt Anna. Marilyn grew to love Aunt Anna. In fact, that was probably some of the most stable years of her life. And it was the confidence that Aunt Anna gave her, even though she was not really related. But this woman had a tremendous influence on her, not only in her childhood and teenage years, but throughout her life. At the age of 16, Marilyn Monroe, well, Norma Jeane, returned to the home of Grace and Doc Goddard. And she enjoyed her time there, but the Goddards were going to be transferred to Virginia. So it was decided that Marilyn Monroe would not go with them.
She said, "You have a choice. You can go back to the orphanage, we'll find you another foster family, or you can marry Jim Doherty," which she didn't want to do any of them, but he was a nice boy. She said he was very nice, and he was very caring. So that's why she got married at 16.
So how long was she here in the orphanage total?
It was almost 2 years. They have a wonderful ledger, which is not normally allowed to be seen, that she signed. And the first time she came back, though, she was still Norma Jeane.
Right.
But the second time and the third time she came back, she signed as Marilyn Monroe, and it says profession. And so she wrote actress, and then in brackets, Marilyn Monroe, she printed, just in case they didn't get it.
And it's never been seen by anyone before until now?
No, first time, it's wonderful.
Do you think that was a moment for her, like that she had made something of herself?
Absolutely. I think it was very important to her. I really do, because it was her dream. She'd fulfilled her dream.
A sad beginning and a tragic end for a life cut too short. When we come back, we go to the Playboy Mansion to talk with Hugh Hefner about Marilyn's Playboy history.
People had heard about the pictures, but almost nobody had seen them because the post office took the position that you could not send nudity through the mail.
everyone, and welcome to this very special look at Marilyn Monroe 50 years later. I'm right outside the famous Playboy Mansion here in Holmby Hills, California. You know, Hugh Hefner jump-started the careers of a lot of girls, but Marilyn jump-started Playboy magazine. She graced the first cover in 1953, and in an ironic twist, the last nude photos ever taken of her appeared in the magazine 10 years later. If you will, remind me the first time you ever saw Marilyn.
It may very well have been Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. My guess is that it probably was.
Oh, thank you ever so.
May I kiss your hand?
I always say a kiss on the hand might feel very good, but a diamond tiara lasts forever.
When you saw her, do you remember the impression she made on you?
Well, I loved her right away. Yes, I think she is iconic and defines Hollywood glamour. Yeah, I do think that Marilyn Monroe is the single greatest sex symbol of the last century.
Let's talk about how it came to be that she was on the first cover of Playboy.
She was actually sitting, I think, on the back of a car and was waving.
Yes.
And that image was taken by our art director, Arthur Paul, and turned into an iconic cover.
Tell me how that happened. Do you remember?
Well, I was starting the magazine with absolutely no money, and I needed something special to get the attention of the audience because I didn't have a lot of money to spend on publicity.
Right.
And then I learned from a story in the local newspaper that Marilyn Monroe had posed for these nude calendar photos, and people had heard about the pictures, but almost nobody had seen them because the post office took the position that you could not send nudity through the mail. And I was the kid who didn't believe the post office had that right. So I learned simultaneously that the calendar company, John Baumgarth, that owned the rights to that image, was located out on the northwest side of Chicago, very close to where I grew up. So I drove out on North Avenue in my beat-up 1940 Chevy and convinced him that it would be good publicity. And he sold me the rights to reproduce the nude image for $500. I got a very good bargain.
And she was a Playmate, right? It wasn't called a Playmate.
She was the very first.
She was the very first, but it was called something else then.
Sweetheart of the Month.
Sweetheart of the Month.
Because the magazine initially was not going to be called Playboy. I was going to call the magazine Stag Party. And the symbol for the magazine was going to be a stag, not a rabbit. And I changed, I got a cease and desist letter from the lawyer for Stag magazine saying that they thought that the logo Stag Party would be an infringement on their Stag name. And I was already having some second thoughts about it. So at the very last minute, we changed the title of the magazine from Stag Party to Playboy, and changed the stag to a sophisticated rabbit.
The rest is history.
And the rest is history.
That was Marilyn's first encounter with Playboy. Her second came in 1962, almost 10 years later. Photographer Lawrence Schiller was on the set of Marilyn's last movie, Something's Gotta Give, when Marilyn turned a pool scene into a nude scene. The script called for Marilyn to appear naked in the water, wearing nude-colored undergarments. But Marilyn was making a play for more publicity, and well, the rest is Playboy history.
What's interesting, as a matter of fact, we ran the very first nudes of Marilyn Monroe in the first issue of Playboy, and we also ran the Lawrence Schiller photos, which were the last nudes that she shot. And those were taken during a swimming scene in the last movie that she did and never completed. And Larry had done other work for us. Marilyn, and it's obvious in some of the dialogue that she had with him at the time, she suggested specifically that we send some of those photos to Playboy, and he did.
She wanted everybody to know that she was in good shape, her body was great, and that she was on top again. So, you know, we sent them to Hefner, and we entered into a negotiation. She was part of that negotiation. She knew that, you know, we'd asked Hefner for $50,000. He came down to $25,000. That was a lot of money in those days. Still a lot of money in today's days. Marilyn was even considering doing a cover for Playboy magazine. Her untimely death prevented that from happening.
Yes, I had a concept for a cover, and the one conversation that I ever had with her was on the phone related to that, and it was the notion that it would be the front cover and the inside front cover, and she would be holding a fur in front of her, but she would be nude behind the fur.
Although Hugh Hefner never had the chance to meet Marilyn, his admiration for her lives on to this day and will continue even into eternity.
She is buried in a vault just a few blocks from here, in the Westwood Cemetery, and I have the vault right next to her.
You do have it. How did that come to be?
I bought it. When I learned it was available, I thought, you know, there's something natural about that. So Marilyn and I will be spending the rest of eternity side by side.
Hugh has surrounded himself with beautiful women his entire life, but he is just as fascinated with Marilyn as the rest of us are. Later, we talked to the man who shot those last nude photos of Marilyn.
When Marilyn came out of the water with nothing on, nobody blinked, because we were all professionals there. I myself just kept on shooting as I would before.
And next, our exclusive with Mitzi Gaynor.
I get very choked up when I think about her.
Welcome to Real Life Marilyn Monroe. I'm Dana Devon. I'm standing across the street from 20th Century Fox, the studio that launched Marilyn's career in 1946. Marilyn, arguably, has been America's most beloved actress for more than 50 years. But there were only a very few who really knew her.
I have very strange and wondrous feelings about Marilyn.
Mitzi Gaynor starred with Marilyn in the movie There's No Business Like Show Business, released in 1954.
And I think, honestly, she steals the picture. I really do. She is so good in it. She's so good at being Marilyn in it.
Sit upon your knee, you grow tired of me.
And she like, how can I explain it to you? She kind of glowed in the dark. I first saw her in person in the hairdressing department at Fox. I was doing something, like one of my girl pictures, like Golden Girl or the I Don't Care Girl, or Look Up in the Sky, It's a Girl, or you know, one of those things. And this girl came in, and she was all kind of very shiny, and she had like last night's makeup on, and she hadn't taken a shower, and I didn't know who she was, not much. And for somebody to come in the next day with last night's makeup on, I mean, puff, darling, we were really, I mean, insane with tee-hees. We didn't realize that she was up all night because she was learning her lines and, you know, suffering.
Right.
What she was doing, I think, was at that time beginning to create, in quotes, Marilyn Monroe. I think that she was known as a dumb blonde. She was about as dumb as Winston Churchill. No, I mean it. She knew what she wanted, she knew how to get it. Killed her, but she was used. She gave and gave and gave and gave and gave. I guess you can tell from me talking about her, I was maybe one of her biggest fans.
The final number, when we all arrived that first morning to shoot, you know, we were all in whatever we were wearing, and Ethel Merman, beautiful white dress, Mitzi, and by the way, Mitzi was quite, just to make that point, Mitzi is so darling. She had the most amazing, beautiful figure, and so Ethel Merman arrives and Mitzi arrives, and then Marilyn Monroe comes to the set in that blue dress, and my way of describing it is that everything else disappeared. I know we have this sort of mythical thing about her, but the truth is it's kind of true.
There's no people like show people, they smile when they are low.
If you've seen it in the finale, we appear up on this huge level. To get there, we have to go up these bleachers, I think there was 25 of those, and then up there, and then we have to come down again. And we had to practice that, and she didn't do it. So the first time she did, everybody knew that she was going to trip on the stairs.